Hey guys, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and I've got something really exciting for you here today, the Turan III Prototype, a Hungarian tank that is going to find its way into the German premium medium line at tier 5. It's already out on the North American server and will be hitting the European server soon, at least I hope. I'm going to give you a full rundown of the statistics of this vehicle and see how it compares to other tier 5 German tanks before showing you some ace tanker gameplay. So here we have the Turán III Prototypus, the Panzerkampfwagen 3-4, the Panzerkampfwagen 4 Ausführung H, the Panzer IV Hydrostat, and the Panzerkampfwagen T25. Boy, there's quite a selection of tier 5 German medium tanks, hey? So immediately we can see that the Turán III has the same DPM as the Panzer IV-H. Funnily enough, having 113mm of penetration, I should mention that all of these vehicles are using their 75mm gun options, with only the T25 75mm having 3 more millimeters of penetration than the Turán III. All of these tanks have 110 alpha damage, with the Turán III and the Panzer IV only having that slight better rate of fire than all of the other vehicles, which gives them a marginal increase in DPM. But immediately we notice a very big problem with the Turán III that I'm going to be showing you in the gameplay, and that is a horrific ammo capacity of only 32 rounds. That means that if you penetrate every single one of your 32 rounds for average damage, then you're going to have a max of 3,520 to distribute between the enemy team in each round, and as you guys may very well know, that is not enough to win some games, especially if we take into account maybe not penetrating a quarter of your shells, meaning that the total damage that you could deal in a game could dip to 2,640. And let's not forget that sometimes you have to shoot at tanks that have very small amounts of hit points left and waste one of your rounds. It is absolutely bizarre to me that they have given this tank basically a third of the ammunition that the Panzer IV-H have and half of what the T25 has. Considering this vehicle's rate of fire is 15 rounds a minute, and that's before you take into account things like a gun rammer or crew skills, you're going to find it hard to continuously fire in this tank for less than 2 minutes without running out of ammunition completely. So I guess you've got to really make the shells count, right? So how about the weapon handling on the Turán III Prototypus? Well, it gets 2.2 seconds aim time, better than that of these three and much better than the T25, but unfortunately the vehicle has worse dispersion when moving and when turning the tank than the 3-4, the 4H, or the 4 Hydrostat, but much better dispersion when sitting still and only turning the turret compared to the 3-4 or the Hydrostat, comparable to the Panzer IV-H. What this means is the gun handling on the Turán III is way better than the T25, the other freely available tier 5 German premium medium tank, apart from the Hydrostat, but that's quite rare to be able to get one of those. While the Turán III will perform pretty much the same as the Panzer III-4 while moving, but much better while stationary, and slightly better than the Panzer IV-H while stationary, and much better than the Hydrostat because of the dispersion values. Thankfully, the vehicle gets 10 degrees of gun depression, which is pretty much all around the vehicle apart from over the back, where it bumps up a little bit as it goes over the exhaust. So now onto the mobility of the Turán. Well, its top speed limit is 40 kilometers an hour, a lot like the Panzer IV-H, which is worse than the Hydrostat, much worse than the 3-4, and the Panzerkampfwagen T25 goes 50% faster than the Turán. Unfortunately, the Turán III has the worst engine out of this comparison, but luckily it's quite a lot lighter than the Panzer IV Hydrostat, so even though it's got a smaller engine, it has a better power to weight ratio. But the power to weight ratio doesn't even come close to the Panzer IV-H and is dominated by the 3-4 and also by the T25. Now the terrain resistances on this tank are not bad, and that helps it gain a little bit of momentum up compared to the T25, but the 3-4 is really going to run rings around this vehicle. Unfortunately as well, the turret traverse is 28 degrees, which is rather poor, and so you're going to find that it takes quite a long time to re-engage targets, which kind of negates a bit of the dispersion and aim time advantage that this tank has while it's stationary compared to the other three vehicles. But at least it completely dominates the T25. So how about the armor of the Turán III? Well, there's 50mm pretty much over the entire of the front of the hull, with 75mm on the turret, which is quite nice, but unfortunately there's this awful cupola up here which is flat and 60mm on the front and only 35mm on the side. There's also this very interesting part of the vehicle here which is only 35mm thick but is very slanted. If we switch the collision model to the live model, we can see that this is very well angled, meaning that it's always going to ricochet. Rounds that are about 105mm and less. But as soon as your opponents are above you or the artillery is going for you, we can see it changes to not ricocheting, and then that makes this quite a lovely juicy target for artillery to take advantage of. The main problem with this tank is that even if you angle the front of the armor, it only goes to about 54mm, and the turret doesn't really have a very large mantlet that covers the tank, so the turret armor is quite easy to penetrate as well. And then you've got this big shoot me here crown that is visible from pretty much everywhere around the tank. Luckily, while the armor on this vehicle isn't the best, it does get a big old slab of hit points. 570 hit points, that's way better than the 3-4, 90 hit points better than the 4H, just a touch better than the Hydra stat, but not quite as good as the very meaty T25. Finally, the view range on this tank is okay for a tier 5 vehicle. 330 is not excellent though, and you're going to need a good crew and binoculars if you want to get up towards a decent total. But anyway, I think that's quite enough theory crafting. Let's see how this Hungarian vehicle performs in some gameplay. And so here we go, the worst possible matchmaking for the Turán III here. Having to deal with tier 7 heavy tanks on the enemy team, a lot of tier 6s, and then about a third tier 5 propping up the bottom. So if the Turán can perform here, then surely it's going to do well when it's top tier matchup, right? So we're playing on fjords. I like to be quite aggressive and try and get to a bush, but unfortunately that rather mediocre power to weight ratio of the Hungarian vehicle not quite able to get up this slope here. We can see the ELC AMX is probably already set up as binoculars, is going to be able to pick up those spots. What do you guys think about the look of this tank? I think it's quite cool looking, to be honest. I was quite happy with the design of it. Just a shame about this crown, meaning that people can shoot you on top of the ridgeline. Oh, I've got into the bush, can't really see anything now. But anyway, I'm setting up here and we can see that our view range does extend quite a long way out. This will be slightly further, it's just a replay bug that doesn't take into account things like crew skills, and I believe also a premium consumable that I'm using on this tank, chocolate. I'm not sure if you should use chocolate on this tank. Well, thinking about it, considering the view range is so bad, that 10% extra commander crew skill could be very useful. What's that hair doing in front of my face? Get out of the way. Okay, so basically we're setting up here, we're camping. Usually, in a high tier game, I'm obviously not very well practiced in low tier games, people would have come across the front there. With binoculars, I'm definitely going to be able to see them. Now we're going to try and put in some long range shots here with the Turán III. But remember, only 32 rounds of ammunition. Every single one of these makes me feel slightly nervous, as if I'm wasting a good opportunity. So we fired like, what, 4 rounds there? That's a large amount of our ammunition. You can't afford to waste this much in the Turán III. And so I decide, okay, yeah, we're not going through that tank with the 130mm of penetration this tank has. Why waste the rounds? I need to get closer and try and get the flanks of the vehicle. So that IS has pushed very aggressively through, trying to flank the Tiger and the OI on my team, but I see this Panzer 4H. I line up my shot. Not too bad aim time on this tank. We put one into him, we set him on fire. I think he's going to burn, so I start shooting the Chappie instead. Indeed, the Panzer 4H on the enemy team, our counterpart, that's a very good example there, burns to death. Cool guys don't look at fires, right? And we put a clutch one into the Chappie there. Great start so far on the Turán. I feel a bit of momentum here, and so I'm going to go after a heavy tank that's 2 tiers higher than us here with the IS. So, our standard rounds more than enough to go through the back of the IS here. We put our first in, put our second in, and this is where you close your eyes and you hope he doesn't reload. Oh, thank goodness. Otherwise, I was about to lose 390 hit points to that 122mm gun. And you certainly don't want to be losing 390 hit points very much, do you? Alright, so great result there, taking out the IS. Now I decide to load some premium ammunition. Gonna have to use it just in case. Because it's very hard to get through the side of an IS turret without having that extra little bonus here. So we put one into him. We finish off the T-34 on the enemy team. And then remember, the premium rounds in this tank have got 160mm of penetration. We put one into the lower plate of the KV-1S, and now I decide to fire standard rounds again. And this is a very sneaky shot here. We're putting rounds under this dead T-29, starting to punish this KV-1S. A tier 5 Soviet heavy tank on the enemy team. Oh, not quite enough damage to be able to shut him down. Now the IS comes around the corner. I shoot him in the tracks, hoping to be able to take them off, but we don't manage to do so. I think about shooting him again, and the T-150 comes around the corner and puts a big, meaty shot into us there. That tier 6 Soviet heavy tank also knocking out my gunner, but a quick dab of the med kit, and he is back in action. So I don't really like the fact that I'm outnumbered here. Although there are some tanks that are coming to my rescue, I really don't feel like I'm going to be able to hold this location. What I want to do instead is wonder why the Comet is still in base. Is he AFK? Oh god, that's great. That's great news for us. Okay, let's forget about him. Okay, maybe this Dickomax will be able to help out, and that's really the reason why I fell back here, because I was hoping that the Dickomax was going to be able to get shots in. And remember, when your opponents are holding this corner, there's no chance for the Dickomax to be able to get shots into them until they start to come out round the dead tanks here. Now that they have come round the corner, that means that the Dickomax can be able to get engagement shots through here. But unfortunately now I guess I've made a bit of a mistake of thinking that the Dickomax would easily be able to spot for himself, but it doesn't look like he has very good view range or binoculars, so he was unable to get the shot. But I've fallen back into position to hopefully put up a last-ditch attempt to try and defend this base. We've already picked up 4 kills so far. That's a great result for the Turan in this kind of a game, but we're going to have to pick up a few more if we want to win this one. So a KV-1S, I've only got 12 rounds remaining in my tank now, including 2 high explosive rounds. In retrospect, I think considering that this tank has such little ammunition, I would probably recommend not taking high explosive rounds on this tank in case you end up in a situation like this where every one counts. So we pick up a kill on that KV-1S there, securing our 5th of the game, and now I'm going to try and spot for my team. Remember, with binoculars and a good crew that I do have on this vehicle and the premium consumable, I'm going to be able to gain a huge amount of spotting out from this bush. So I'm just going to set up and see if I can spot some for this Dickomax. Doesn't look like the Comet is actually moving, so for all intents and purposes we need to consider he's AFK. Can we finish off this Hellcat? Yes we can, we finish him off, and I decide to start shooting the Achilles, who is being shot probably by the Comet, who is AFK, or alternatively the Dickomax. Come on, finish him off! Oh, absolute disaster. The Dickomax didn't really help me by sitting behind me there. Or alternatively, maybe you could say that I kind of blocked him as well. All in all, I felt like I had to take my chances. We had heavy tanks rushing down towards the base. I finished off one tier 6 tank destroyer. I nearly finished off the second, but that Achilles, I didn't appreciate that he was a tier 6. Is that a medium tank or even a tank destroyer? I am confused. It is a British tank destroyer. Has a good slab of hit points though, so we were unable to take him down. And now all of our hopes rest on what the Dickomax can do. Will the Dickomax be able to handle this? Remember, he is a tank with excellent gun depression. He should be able to just poke himself up over this ridgeline to be able to win this game. Oh god, that's not looking good. I don't think that he's going to be able to handle an IS and a T-150 at the same time. The IS makes the right play to just wait, and that allows the T-150 to rush into him. Dickomax puts a shot into his tracks, and that IS simply just grinds him out at the end of this game, and the enemy take down a good victory. So I probably could have made some smarter plays at the end of the game here. In retrospect, if I hadn't just sat in that bush and decided that I had to make my last stand in a way, I could have probably pulled back behind the bushes and tried to snipe out and waited for our opponents to come at us one by one. But in those kind of situations where you're outnumbered with people that I think are using botting programs, I think you have to take your chances. But congratulations to this platoon on the enemy team for securing 9 kills between them. And I was still very happy with the impact that I had here, picking up a top gun in the worst possible matchmaking. So let's just take a very quick look at the post-game stats. So a great result here for the Turan III. This was 50,000 credits and 2,393 experience for a defeat. Unfortunately, in a matchup this bad, I did fire quite a few premium rounds and I resupplied that chocolate and a medkit for 23,000 credits, meaning that we barely made a profit. But when I played other games in the Turan where we weren't having to deal with so many tier 6 and tier 7 opponents, we did make quite a nice amount of credits in this vehicle. But of course, a tier 5 tank is never going to come close to what a tier 6, tier 7 or even a tier 8 premium vehicle will. So even though we were bottom tier, we finished top on damage here. That was 1,139 base experience points. I should also highlight that low tier premium tanks do get quite a nice bonus for being a premium vehicle to the amount of experience that they have, making the Turan okay for a crew trainer or if you want to convert the experience off and use on a different vehicle. But considering there are so many German premium medium tanks in the game already, I'm surprised if you need another crew trainer. So the Turán III Prototípus. Is it an amazing tank? Well, not really, but it's certainly not bad for a premium vehicle. Well, I don't think it's quite as good as the Panzer IV H. It's not meant to be, right? Because it is a premium tank. tank. And for while me personally this tank is completely insignificant compared to the M41 with the 90mm that I just reviewed yesterday, it should still be a nice pickup for those of you who want some low tier premium gameplay, are tank collectors, or maybe just interested in the fact that this is a Hungarian vehicle. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, or maybe it was just useful to you. If it was, please consider giving it a like down below. It really helps the channel out, and let me know in the comments down below what you think about the Turán III Prototípus. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.